Have you thought about doing the carnivore diet but felt it was just too expensive for you to be able to afford to do? Well, a lot of people think that, and I want to dive into that question today because I don't think so. So the main thing that I think is what, really makes people think this is this idea that we have to have a grass-fed, grass-finished versus grain-fed meat. And I think let's first, dive into that because that's really important. One, I think the most important thing you want to do when following any diet is, get the best and highest quality meat you have access to and that you can afford. That should be the top priority, not specifically what that label says. All cattle are grazed on grassland in this country, so they're all grass-fed. The difference is, how long that they are grass-fed, how much they're supplemented with grain, and which ones are sent to be grain-fed and fattened before they're slaughtered. And so that's the difference. So with grass-fed meat, one of the things that's different that people most talk about is there's a higher portion of omega-3 fatty acids in grass-fed cattle because they're eating the grass. Omega-3 fatty acids are helpful, but if you're trying to increase the amount that you're having, then you're going to want to eat salmon because the amount that there is in beef, there is some, but the amount that's there is not that much. And the amount that's in grass-fed beef is a little more, but not that much more to make, an appreciable difference. So if you're really concerned about omega-3, you should be eating fish. So the other thing that I think that people think about with grass-fed meat is that it is a proxy for, organic, for, hormone and antibiotic free, for all of these other things that, that we rightfully should be concerned about. I think it's perfectly fine to eat supermarket, beef. It is commonly eaten by many carnivores. We do very well. I commonly eat it. I enjoy it. I think it's good. I feel like I've gotten a ton of benefits from eating the carnivore diet where, the bulk of my diet is coming from grain-fed supermarket beef. But that being said, I think what you can do, if this is, if that is specifically a concern of yours, is seek out local farmers who, you can buy beef directly from. Now, with them, you have to understand, like in the, the food industry or the meat industry, these labels of organic or grass-fed or whatever, I mean, this comes with a price too. So not every farmer is able to afford these things. So they may be raising their animals in a, a wonderful, humane way, not using GMO grain or feed or anything like that, yet they, they haven't purchased, the price of those labels. So I think it's probably a better idea for you to go to the farm and meet the farmer and just get a sense of what they're doing. And if you feel okay with it, that's probably, a better deal than buying, some store brand version of grass-fed beef. You're probably getting a much better, healthier, safer product. So if that is a concern of yours, I would seek to go local and try to find, a farmer that's got prices that you can afford and that are, who seems to be treating their animals well, isn't using antibiotics, and, has a farm that looks good to you. There's a great way to do that. And in fact, you can check out this video up here to find one of the members of the Black Carnivore community is doing van life, and she has been collecting a list of all the farmers local farmers that she's gone to who sell meat. And most of them, I think they're all grass fed, but I bet their prices are not so bad. You should check them out. And I think she's going to start adding grass-fed farmers as well to the list. Local farmers, though. to the list. So you should keep checking out the list and see what's on there, and that's good for you. Remember, of course, if you have the space and have a freezer and stuff, if you buy a larger amount of, meat at once, you may be able to get the price down to, $4 or $5 a pound. So, so definitely consider that. So one of the biggest costs with meat is, of course, the grass-fed versus grain-fed. So I hope that I have given you comfort to go ahead and eat grain-fed meat. The most important thing is to get, into ketosis, reversing your metabolic disease, removing plant compounds and anti-nutrients that are keeping you from maximum health. And when you remove that, you're going to find that you get a lot better. There may come a time that you decide that you need to go that extra mile to get a little bit of extra benefit. And then it may be worth at that point looking at doing like only grass-fed meat. But to start with, I don't think that's necessary. To start, you just got to start. And then, you'll see a lot of benefit. And then you go on from there. So the next place where you can see differences in price is the cut. So, of course, there's choice and there's prime. I don't really know the specifics of what that means, but it means it's a difference in the quality of the meat. So, a prime, of course, is the better quality, and a choice is the other. I only eat choice, and so I think it's fine. Prime, it's tasty. If you got the money for it, go ahead and spring for it, but it's not necessary. It's not a requirement. The other thing is to choose different cuts of meat that are less expensive. So if you want a carnivore diet that's composed of ribeyes, that's going to taste good, but it is going to be very expensive. But there is a whole, there's a whole huge cow. A cow is not only a ribeye or, a New York strip steak. There's a whole bunch of stuff on there that's edible. So think about that. Choose different cuts. Of course, any ground meat is going to be the cheapest. And so, if you need to keep it at the cheapest, ground meat is where it's at. And that is perfectly fine and healthy. The other thing that is also really inexpensive is organ meat. So some people go to the butcher and have them grind in liver or some other organ meat, and that or heart, and that can bring more nutrition to the ground beef, and it can lower the cost per pound because liver and heart and kidney, are usually a lot cheaper. So, organ meat overall is generally cheaper because people are not, not super keen on eating it, but it is super nutritious and helpful. So, don't sleep on that. And also don't get tied up and totally hyper-focused on liver. It is not the only organ meat. Heart, like I said, is very tasty, and it's great. Eggs, of course, people sort of consider that an organ meat, and you can get those, usually pretty inexpensive, and some people, love eggs and eat a ton of them. So think outside of the box and think about how you can eat them in ways that work for you. Liver is a little tough, so I prefer it as pate. That the taste isn't so bad to me, but it's that texture with liver that really gets to me. But when you turn it into a pate, the texture problem goes away, and it makes an incredible dip. Now, the other thing to think about with meat or a carnivore diet is to kind of step back and look at the diet as a whole. So when I compare meat to vegetables and like the cost of vegetables in my diet, that was a lot, and so the vegetables, well, for one thing, half of them would rot before I got to eat them. So there was that was, a big waste of money. And then two, like in the case of broccoli, you're throwing, at least half of the weight away just by cutting off the stalk. And peeling and there's so much waste of vegetables that you can't eat. So, or people choose not to eat. So the cost per pound of the fruits and vegetables is actually really high when you consider how much of it you're not eating and so on. And then, if you compare these foods, like 2 pounds of broccoli, for me in New York, I don't know about where you are, but for me in New York, 2 pounds of broccoli is about the same cost as 2 pounds of ground beef. I can live a whole day on 2 pounds of ground beef. I cannot on 2 pounds of broccoli. One, I'm throwing away 1 pound already from the stocks. And then two, I'm going to be hungry, stuffed, bloated, gassy, and so on. I mean, there a whole cascade of feelings are going to come from trying to eat 2 pounds of broccoli. But that doesn't happen with the 2 pounds of ground beef. So you kind of think back, and you kind of have to step back and think about what you are not buying and what you are not wasting and throwing away. Try to think about that when you're thinking about your monthly budget. And then I want you to think about what you're not buying. When before I went keto, I spent a ton of money, going out to restaurants for drinks, for appetizers, for, junk and, buying snacks and going to the bodega and getting, like chips or beer or this or that. Like, I spent a ton of money. So when I went keto, it was like, wow, where's all this money coming from? And then when I went carnivore, it was interesting. Like, I think that my budget kind of stayed the same, but the quality of my food rose. So since I wasn't buying all the vegetables and stuff, I was like, all right, let me buy, more expensive or higher quality meats. And so that's kind of what happened. All the other things got taken out. And you got to think those things, those snack foods and the things that are in the center aisle of the supermarket are really expensive. I mean, cereal is so expensive. I cannot believe for what you get, how much it costs. And, some things are really cheap, like soda and rice, but, you also eat more because of them and you eat more of them. So I don't know that you really get a whole lot of savings there. You think that you do, but then you actually end up eating a lot more. So I think this is going to be different for different people, but you got to look for yourself and decide whether you are, whether you're eating less or not. And I would argue that you will be eating less on a carnivore diet than you will on, a standard diet or even on a keto diet. For sure, the amount of food that I needed to be satisfied in a day, going from a standard American diet to a ketogenic diet, like it was a night and day difference. I mean, not even halved. It was like there was so much less I needed to eat in order to be satisfied versus when I was on the standard American diet, where I was always hungry. I always needed something and I was always looking for a snack. So the volume of food that I was consuming was much higher, and I was, I spent a lot of money on food and on junk. So yeah, I think that there's a big difference when you go on the carnivore diet. And then of course you have to remember that grains in the United States anyway, grains are subsidized. So you're not actually paying the true cost of the that it took to produce that food, whatever that is, cereal or donuts or cookies or whatever. You're not paying the true cost. But meat is not subsidized, so you are paying the true cost of the meat. And so, there is that difference there. You also have to think about the cost of medications. So the tax on sickness, so to speak, is high. The cost of insulin, of diabetic medications, people who are on 3 and 4 and 5 medications, and that stuff is big. That can cost a lot. Just in terms of the copays and whatnot, or if you have no insurance, paying it outright. And then there's costs on your health and your body. You don't get more well by adding more medications. So the true cost of eating the standard American diet and not making your diet a meat-based one can include like the cost of medications, and that's significant. I hope that helps you think about this a little bit different. The meat is it is so important to add this to your diet. It is, it's really not a game. It's not a superficial thing. It is really, really important, and it can be done on any budget. It really, it's just a matter of trying to take advantage of sales of inexpensive cuts of organ meats and things that people tend not to eat as much of, and you can make this work. And, and the sales thing, I didn't list that, but, really make sure you go to supermarkets often. Look at the circulars, see when they're having sales. When they're having sales, stock up and, buy it all and just put it in your freezer. Ask the butcher what they have in the back, because for sure they have more in the back, and you can buy it all. Buy all 10, 20 pounds. If you see, and I've seen some or heard about some amazing sales around this country, but if you see ribeye on sale for $5.99, buy all of it, all of it. And, and just wrap it up in aluminum foil and put it in the freezer. And that is a great way to bring your costs down as well. If you need more support in getting started or staying on the carnivore diet, be sure and join my 21-day challenge. That will really help you to stay focused, to get support from other like-minded people who are doing the same thing as you. And, I see people just achieve a lot higher level of success when they're working together with a group of people. So think about joining that challenge, and the link is down below. And make sure that you check out the rest of this series. I'm trying to answer a lot of questions that people have about carnivore so that you can get off to the right foot. So check out these other videos that answer your questions about carnivore and getting started with it. All right, see you next time.